I don't think there can be any question that the most significant finding has to be about the allegations that kicked off the entire saga almost 3 years ago, which was the two-pronged conspiracy theory that Donald Trump worked with, coordinated, collaborated, and conspired with the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election, and that Donald Trump is captive to Vladimir Putin as a result of a variety of blackmail, leverage, and other forms of links that allow the Kremlin to dictate to the White House what it is that they're supposed to do. And I think it's very important to point out from the outset that this was no ordinary investigation. The Democrats, the CIA, their allies in the media who believed in this conspiracy theory got exactly the prosecutor that they wanted, who everybody agreed was the man of the highest integrity and competence. He assembled a vast team of very aggressive prosecutors, FBI agents, forensic accountants, intelligence analysts. He had unlimited resources. The entire apparatus of the U.S. surveillance state at his disposal, and 22 months to dig as deeply as he could dig to find out the answers to whether those conspiracy theories were or weren't true. You can't get a more sweeping or comprehensive investigation than that. And he went through systematically each of the prongs of the conspiracy theories and found either that the evidence did not establish that they were true, or in some cases found the opposite, that in fact there was no evidence to support the theory at all, and that the theory was simply false. One example of that is, for example, I think David mentioned this the last time we talked about it, as evidence that there was something sinister going on between the Russians and Trump, was the change to the GOP platform in mid-2016 to make it more favorable to the Russians by diluting the language about U.S. support for Ukraine. And at the time, I had always said, and said on the show the last time, that that was totally consistent with both Barack Obama and Donald Trump's foreign policy not to provoke Vladimir Putin by arming the Ukrainians. Mueller said this is done by some low-level aide acting alone. There's no evidence he coordinated it with even Donald Trump, let alone with the Russians or Vladimir Putin, and that it was just an attempt to conform the GOP platform to what Trump's stated foreign policy was. And over and over and over, from the Trump Tower meeting to all of the post-Russian connections after both the convention and the election, Mueller used the same language over and over and over again, which is that there's no evidence, or the evidence does not establish that these conspiracy theories actually happened. Now, you can continue to believe in them. It sort of feels almost like arguing with people who have adopted religious beliefs, that they're going to believe in their view of how the world works, no matter how much evidence you present them, that it didn't happen. But Democrats and proponents of this theory got what they wanted, which is the Mueller investigation and now most of the Mueller report and his findings. And his findings are that he looked for 22 months as hard as he could and didn't establish that these theories were true. And we already knew that because not one American was indicted or charged for conspiracy, but he went even beyond that and said the evidence doesn't establish it. On the obstruction issue, I think there's a lot of evidence that Donald Trump is what we knew he was, which is an amoral liar, somebody who is willing to corruptly abuse his power to protect himself. But at the end of the day, the Democrat leaders in the House have already said they're not going to impeach him over this. And the reason is because the question always was Trump's trying to stop the investigation because he genuinely believed that it was based on a false conspiracy, or was he trying to stop the investigation because he knew he had done what people were accusing him of doing with the Russians and wanting to cover that up? And the Mueller report concluded it was the first instance. He was trying to stop the investigation because he thought it was a sham all along, and therefore, even though he lied and acted improperly, it doesn't rise to the corrupt intent needed to charge him with obstruction, which is stopping an investigation to prevent your own wrongdoing from being uncovered. And so I think even Democrats know this is the end of the line with this entire 3-year scandal that has drowned our politics and discourse.